Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So here's another deck profile for all of you guys today. This time it's on Blue Eyes. So I announced that I went back to the Fusion build mainly because a lot of the new support cards simply help with the Fusion variant of Blue Eyes. And with the new cards like Dictator D, which is actually an excellent extender, it also acts as a really cool Foolish Burial for Blue Eyes White Dragons, which I'll get into more detail as we go on. But yeah, as soon as I saw the new release cards, I was like, you know what, I'm going to get my hands on these. I already knew what ratios I wanted to go with, and yeah. Now, of course, I did have to adjust a few other things simply because I wanted to maintain this deck at 40 cards, and it just took me a little longer than expected, but thankfully I finally found the build that I liked, and yeah, figured I'd share that with you guys today. So, let's go and get started. So, as I mentioned before, this is a 40 card deck, starting off with 3 copies of Blue Eyes White Dragon. This is literally the heart and soul of the entire deck, and one thing I do like is that it's a normal monster, it's a 3k beater, so yeah, Blue Eyes White Dragon is pretty nuts. Next, 2 copies of Blue Eyes Alternative. You don't really need to see this at 3 simply because it can break. So if you open up with 2 of these and you have no regular Blue Eyes White Dragons, then yeah, that can be pretty bad. But yeah, 2 alternatives. It's a free special summon and it could pop a card. So yeah, why not? For the one-ofs, 1 Dragon Spirit of White, which gets rid of your opponent's back row, and it banishes too, so that's pretty nice. And what's really cool too is like you can also use its tag out effect even under skill drain. So like if your opponent flips a skill drain, you can still like tribute this card because, you know, costs can still be paid. And since that once it hits the grave, it's no longer on the field, then you can special summon a Blue Eyes White Dragon directly from your hand. Next, 1 Blue Eyes Abyss Dragon. So this card reads is that if it's special summoned, you can either add a ritual spell or 1 polymerization from your deck to your hand, which we are running polymerization because considering that this is a fusion deck. And also its end phase effect is that if you have a Blue Eyes White Dragon on field or in your grave, you can add any level 8 dragon monster from your deck to your hand. So this is a good way to get access to your Chaos Emperor for a good follow-up or just anything else you may need. Moving on, the newest edition, 1 copy of Blue Eyes Jet Dragon, which thankfully you only need the 1. So other cards you control cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. You can only use each of the following effects of Blue Eyes Jet Dragon once per turn. And activate them while Blue Eyes White Dragon is on your field or in your grave. If a cards is on the field and is destroyed by battle or card effects, you can special summon this card directly from your grave, or you can special summon it from your hand. Now, of course, I always hate when they put the even if not text, but basically, as long as he's in your hand or in your grave and something is destroyed on your side of the field, you can special summon this card. At the start of the damage step, if this card battles, you can target 1 card your opponent controls, return it to the hand. So this card is a built-in compulsory evacuation device. And of course, you can target anything, not just monsters. So yeah, Blue Eyes Jet Dragon is actually pretty strong. And the fact that it's also a dragon-type monster, and you can bring it out through the effect of Whitestone of Ancients, it's pretty nice. Next, 1 copy of Chaos Dragon Levianeer. Since you are running a few dark monsters this time around, it's easier to pull off any one of its effects. So yeah, Chaos Dragon Levianeer is really cool. It's searchable, so yeah, definitely run it at 1. And of course, 1 copy of Chaos Emperor, the Dragon of Armageddon. This is optional to run. I know this card spiked up crazy in price just recently, so you don't actually have to run this. So if you don't want to run it, you're free not to. You can run something else. But anyway, yeah, I mostly just use it for the pendulum effect where you can pay 1,000 life points, recycle 1 of your cards, and that's pretty much it. But if you do want them body, then you could just banish a light in the dark, special summon this card, and go into some pretty cool rank 8 plays with that. But overall, I'm not running too many rank 8s at all, so yeah, I think this is just fine. I'm not running Nebula Dragon simply because I don't want to get locked out of just using light and dark dragon monsters, especially because I have other cards to play. So yeah, Nebula Dragon's not bad, but I just choose not to run it. Alright, so moving on, 3 copies of Sage, which in my opinion is still the best starter of this deck, especially because it gets you access to your stones, your effect Veiler, and also has a really cool discard effect where you can target an effect monster, send it to the grave, and special summon a Blue Eyes directly from your deck. But the newest edition, 3 copies of Dictator D. I was thinking of just running this at 2 at first, but I realized I do kind of want to see it in my opening hand since it doesn't eat up my normal summon. So while you control a Blue Eyes monster, you can choose the attack targets for your opponent's attacks, which isn't too relevant, but it can't come up. But the part you really want to focus on is this. You can only use each of the following effects of Dictator D once per turn. You can send 1 Blue Eyes White Dragon from your hand or your deck to the graveyard, special summon this card. Then you can also discard 1 Blue Eyes White Dragon or 1 card that mentions it, then target 1 Blue Eyes monster in your grave, special summon it. So this is really cool because like you can just discard like a Whitestone of Legend. Of course you can't do Ancients because Ancients says Blue Eyes, never specifies Blue Eyes White Dragon. But Whitestone of Legend does on the other hand. So like if you happen to already search, so basically the combo is that if you normal summon Sage, you search out Whitestone of Legend, and then you can use Dictator D, special summon it by its own effect. then use its revival effect, discard Whitestone of Legend. you get a plus out of it. Not only do you get a body, but you also get a free search off the Whitestone of Legend. Which, actually, moving on to our next cards. 2 copies of Ancients. I was going to run this at 3, but I didn't have any more room. But 2 should be fine, because either way, like, even if you use its banishment effect to, bring back a Blue Eyes, Chaos Emperor basically recycles it anyway. So it's almost like as if you're already running 3 anyway. So, yeah. But, of course, 1 copy of Whitestone of Legend. When it's sent to the graveyard, you have to search a Blue Eyes White Dragon. So it is a mandatory effect. So it's pretty nice. And, of course, Whitestone of Ancients has that end phase effect, which you should never forget, by the way. It lets you special summon any Blue Eyes directly from your deck. So, yeah, Whitestone of Ancients is pretty good. Of course, the only one it can't summon legally is Blue Eyes Shining Dragon, but nobody runs that garbage. So, yeah. But, yeah, that's pretty much it from there. For my hand traps, I'm only running 3 hand traps. 2 copies of Ash, since, generic disruption, and only 1 copy of Veiler, which I just mentioned. It is searchable through Sage's effect. So, yeah, 1 effect Veiler should be just fine. And plus, what's also interesting is that this deck also has other forms of disruption, which we'll get to momentarily. But, yeah, that pretty much rounds up our monsters. Now moving on to spells. For spells, 3 copies of Melody of the Awakening Dragon. Basically searches out any dragon that has 3,000 or more attack points with 2,500 or less defense. So, pretty much our entire lineup of dragons. 3 training, discard a level 8 monster and then draw 2 cards. Still the best revival in the entire deck. 3 copies of Return of the Dragon Lords revives any level 8 dragon as long as you summon it correctly. And also, it also provides protection for your dragons. So, yeah, it's pretty nuts. For one-of, since I am running Blue Eyes Abyss Dragon, 1 Polymerization. 1 Ultimate Fusion, which is one of the newest additions. The interesting thing about Ultimate Fusion is that this card also acts as a form of disruption. It's a quick play fusion spell, which by itself already speaks bad news. So during the main phase, you can fusion summon 1 fusion monster from your extra deck that mentions Blue Eyes White Dragon or Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon as material by shoveling back the fusion materials listed on it from your hand, field, and or graveyard back into the deck. Then, you can destroy face-up cards your opponent controls up to the number of Blue Eyes White Dragons and Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragons used as fusion material. You can only activate 1 Ultimate Fusion per turn. That is crazy. So basically, if I wanted to bring out Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, for example, and shuffle back all 3 of my regular Blue Eyes White Dragons back into the deck, I get to pop 3 cards. That is broken. So Ultimate Fusion is definitely a card you definitely don't want to scoff at. You can easily send this off of Verte Anaconda's effect if you want to. And there's actually another way we can actually search this card, or rather set it. So we'll get to that in just a moment. But yeah, Ultimate Fusion, I think is really good. You don't really want to play multiples of these because you can brick with it. So I think 1 is the perfect number. Same thing with Polymerization since it's searchable. And anyway, just to kind of like give you hand advantage during the end phase is always good enough for me. For the other one-ofs, 1 copy of Dragon Shrine since it is a hard once per turn. Foolish Burial. So like basically the idea is to constantly get your Blue Eyes White Dragons into the grave, just so your Ultimate Fusion goes online. 1 for 1. I was thinking of cutting this, but I decided to bring it back in place of Ultimate Creature of Destruction, simply because I don't think I need that card anymore. And you're going to see why in just a moment. And of course, 1 Monster Reborn. And for the only traps I'm running, 2 copies of True Light, which is a continuous form of revival for your Blue Eyes White Dragons. It also provides protection for your Blue Eyes White Dragons. But you can also use it for its second effect, which actually this is how you bring out Ultimate Fusion a little faster too. You can set 1 spell or trap directly from your deck that lists Blue Eyes White Dragon in its text with a different name from the cards you control or in your graveyard. And another card to make sure that stays alive is Destined Rivals, which acts as a form of disruption. So basically, if you control Blue Eyes White Dragon or Dark Magician, you can negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls on the field. So yeah, it's just, just as a bonus. All right, so that pretty much rounds out the main deck. Now moving on to the extra deck. So we're going to go and start with the fusion, starting off with the new Blue Eyes Tyrant Dragon. So for those who don't know what this does, the only materials you need is 1 Blue Eyes White Dragon and 1 Dragon Monster. So basically, yeah, any 2 dragons to do. Must first either be fusion summoned or special summoned from your extra deck by tributing 1 Blue Eyes White Dragon equipped with the fusion monster, which honestly, that part doesn't really come up at all. But anyway, it's unaffected by trap cards and their effects. So yeah, this is a good card just to, deal with skill drain and all that too. And also, this card can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each, and once per turn at the end phase. If this card battled, you can target 1 trap card in your graveyard, set it back to your spell and trap card zone. So this basically recycles Destined Rivals once you bring it out. And also, it doesn't fall. I forgot to mention about True Light. If it's destroyed, kind of like Eternal Soul, if it's destroyed, all your monsters get nuked, which honestly shouldn't be a problem because then you can just protect them through the effect of Return of the Dragon Lords anyway. This card is, Tyrant Dragon is immune to that effect, so yeah, it's pretty nuts. And again, the fact that you could just reset it during the end phase is like, yeah, that speaks broken right there. Moving on. We got Blue Eyes Twin Burst Dragon. So basically, it can attack twice on monsters only, and if it fails to destroy a monster in battle, you get to banish it. And what's also cool is that it can't be destroyed by battle. One Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, which can attack 3 times in a turn just by sending the fusion monsters directly from your extra deck. But of course, it also has a really cool graveyard effect where if one of your Blue Eyes is targeted by a card effect, you can you can banish this card, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. And my personal favorite of the bunch, Blue Eyes Alternative Ultimate Dragon. So, so basically, it's just Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon, but more broken, and it's bigger too. Cannot be targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects. And if Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon was used as part of its material, you get to pop 3 cards per turn rather than just 1. Of course, it can attack still, but I mean, this guy is huge, so you don't even have to worry about that. So, yeah, these guys are pretty nuts. All right, for Synchros, you still want to run the Synchro package. 2 Spirit Dragon, naturally, because it can also negate graveyard effects, and it prevents your opponent from summoning 2 monsters at once. 1 is Azure Eyes Silver Dragon, which you can tag out into, as well as 1 Black Rose Moonlight Dragon, just for additional disruption. The only Xyz monsters I'm running in this deck simply because, again, this is more fusion focused. I'm still running 1 number 38 simply because it's spell negation, and 1 Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord, which also negates monster effects. So just a good way to protect yourself from Nibiru, basically. And yeah. All right. And then for my Link monsters, my Link lineup has kind of changed up quite a lot. Still running 1 Hulk because, it gets you access to your stones. 1 Verite Anaconda because, you can send it off to send off your Ultimate Fusion if you have to. 1 Hieratic Seal of Heavenly Spheres, since you are still running a lot of dragons. 1 Link Rebo. And new addition, Lina the Light Charmer Illustrious. This actually does come up quite a bit. Searches out any light monster from your deck with 1500 or less defense. And of course, it has to be destroyed with battle card effects first, but that's still pretty good, all things considering, because you can search out Effect Veiler this way too, as a matter of fact. You can also search out your Sage with Eyes of Blue, because Sage with Eyes of Blue does have 1500 defense points. So, like, if you need something for follow-up, this is basically the card that enables that purpose. So, yeah, Lina the Light Charmer Illustrious is not something to laugh at. All right, for the side deck, decided to go with the main staples. 3 Artifact Lancia, 3 Token Collector. Because Sword Soul and heroic tokens are a thing. Just as kind of a joke, but at the same time, it can actually throw people off considering it is good. It's a really strong blowout card. 3 copies of Raigeki. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Didn't I just point out that, Raigeki, isn't as broken as it used to be? Well, I mean, it is still very broken. Don't keep in mind. I'm surprised I even brought this back to 3. But it's definitely a budget alternative to Lightning Storm. So, and Raigeki, some people often don't see it coming. So I figured, I'll just play this just to, be a bit of a troll. And yeah, because there are monsters out there that are immune to destruction. But if your opponent doesn't have any of those monsters out, this could just basically end games for you. So yeah. Next, 2 copies of Twin Twisters and a Harpy's Feather Duster. Thank God Imperial Order is gone. And of course, 3 copies of Skildren, which I was considering main decking this, but I decided against it simply because, I'm not running Eldritch for that matter. And I feel like Eldritch abuses this card a lot more than this deck can. But the option is there if you want to go for that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this. And I will catch you guys again next time.